Hello, everyone. Is Sean Valentin, and today the person I chose to interview for my final project, which is the interviewing a creative person project, is Robert Adams or Hell Plus on YouTube.
Hello. Apparently, I'm creative, which is news to me and several of my critics, of which there are none, because I'm universally loved by the 10 people who know who I am, and I'm
So,
pretty sure only three of them are lying.
so the first question I want to ask is, what got you interested in the arts in general in the first place?
Um. Oh God. That's for a second. I think it was something I kind of stumbled into, really. Like a lot of people, I sort of just like grew up, liked watching movies, all that sort of stuff. Didn't really weird. Like I loved movies, and like I would watch movies all the time. I had like these like 5 or 6 movies on DVD that I would just watch over and over again, and I still wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do for ages, and it took like for there was when I was in secondary school there was a project that was happening. I think it was with a local university. We had a university who were across the road, so our school teamed up with them, and they were working on a little movie like project thing. And they're like, "Hey, who wants to help out?" Then it'll be like you're on a professional film set. You sort of learn some stuff, and so I did that, and I really enjoyed doing it. I liked working behind the scenes. It was fun. I think I just held some cables at some point, and I was like, I'm in show business. I'm holding these goddamn cables like a champion. Um,
So I know you
yeah,
I know that sounds like something. I'm not sure you guys have it in England, but a work study program in
I
in
it
sorts.
wasn't I guess you could say it was similar to it, but it wasn't. It was more like a collaboration, really. And I think if it was a work study program in that, I think they probably would have been concerned by my lack of actual real work. I sort of it's more kind of there, but I was very enthusiastically there,
But
and they seemed to appreciate that.
is work study programs a thing in England or
Yeah, it's a thing.
because
It's
basically like I did work study when I was in high school, and
yeah.
basically it was just to get some experience. You weren't necessarily getting paid, so you didn't have to have experience to go into the work study program. So I was wondering if it's something like that. I was looking at it from that perspective.
No, I'd say it's closer to, I think, a university making a short film, and because they have a sort of a grammar school down the road, they wanted some good PR about the whole thing, and having, a collaboration with this school where the students helped make the movie, like short film thing. I think it definitely sort of post everything kind of reeks of kind of, hey kids, you want to try out this thing? But I don't know, it worked on me. I enjoyed it. But yeah, like I think it was as much really. I don't think it was really in the same way of like being a very serious kind of work study program. Like there were loads of students there who were there with me from the school and stuff. I think it was just as much kind of yeah, just a thing to like kind of, I guess, encourage kids to see what making a movie was kind of like,
Uh,
and what it's like to kind of be on set and what it's like to do pre-production, that kind of thing. And it wasn't like the most in-depth thing in the world. I'd say that like in terms of actually learning how a movie's made, it was pretty like in technical know-how. It was pretty like not much, but like I had a lovely time, and having done that, I really enjoyed doing it. I was very enthusiastic to the whole thing. I was like, man, movies. And then I think it was only after the fact was like, wait a minute, I love movies. How has it taken me this long to realize that like I like these things, and I like all this stuff. And how is it taking me this long to like notice that when I literally stay up till like midnight on a portable DVD player, secretly watching Shaolin Soccer for the billionth time,
So you were really into. So a lot of the sets you would have based on Shaolin Soccer were like
I
the Shaw
no,
Brothers films and stuff like that.
I mean, maybe no, not necessarily Shaw Brothers. I'd say what films. I really liked wuxia movies. I really liked I don't know if Shaolin Soccer really counts because that's a Stephen Chow comedy, but like I loved House of Flying Daggers. I loved Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I loved Hero. Like I love those movies. Anytime there's a new wuxia movie I found, I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna watch these. There's wuxia's those sort of Chinese hero films. Um, and yeah, like I just got really into those kind of fun sword fight action movies. And it's funny because like, especially as a kid, tone and context kind of flew over me. So my brain was always just remembering oh yeah, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, the cool action movie with a girl like in the restaurant, and was everyone? It's awesome. And then like I grow up and I watch these films later, and it's just like, oh my god, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, the slow, serene Ang Lee drama that occasionally has fights in it. And House of Flying Daggers. Oh yeah, that film I thought was awesome as a kid, but kind of sad at the end. To then going, oh my god, like at the age of sort of rewatching it, like years later, as I slowly learn to like comprehend what's going on in anything. It's like, oh, House of Flying Daggers, that incredibly sad movie about two people trying to use sex to manipulate each other, both failing, and then having the most depressing ending in the world. And stuff like that. So it's definitely like, I was watching like films that were maybe like a bit too old for me as a kid, but they had cool action in them, and the tone and the topics of them flew over my head completely. I really had no idea. I think I really didn't comprehend what was happening in them. But I liked the thing. I liked the looks, and I mean, my brother brought in Kill Bill. I added that to my little DVD collection, and I watched that a few times. I was like, this is so cool. But I had no idea what was going on.
So when it comes to what drove you to pursue filmmaking, you would say that a lot of it was just the things you were exposed to.
Yeah, I think sort of, yeah, just as much accidentally walking into things, really. I think, like, definitely, obviously, a little bit of kind of personal curiosity on top of that. Like, I didn't have to do the little movie thing, but like, it just sounded fun. I think, like, I just kind of became attracted to that, really. Yeah.
So, obviously, we're friends, and I know that you were once like way more into anime at one point now than you were back then. But would you say that what you saw in anime kind of also made you want to do more interesting things with your film? That may have driven you to do film.
Probably. Well? It's not really ever the connection I really made. I kind of always had them semi-separate in my head. I think there were like things I liked about it, but I think a lot of the times when I watched animes, it's very interesting. I think it's almost like the opposite of sort of with when I would watch like these sort of live action films, where like with these live action films, like if I watched Hero, like as a kid, I'm watching Hero, and I become obsessed with like the choreography and the action and the colors and all of that, like really, and even if I didn't really fully understand what was always going on in the movie, or even if part of my brain was like kind of ignoring the story a little bit, I was like kind of, to me, like I was looking at the visuals on screen and being really captivated by that. But I think as a kid, like, I think it was almost the opposite, where I'd watch something like Bleach and I'd be captivated by like the story of it, and not really the action. Really? I never really kind of, it's why I never really went in for like the hype anime kind of thing. Like I never got into Gurren Lagann. I never could, because it comes in so immediate of like, look at this cool stuff and it's like woo, and I'm just like and then I see Fruits Basket for the first time, the really old one, like 2004, wherever it was. A friend told me about Fruits Basket, and I've had a thing, and I watched it, and it opens up, and it's just a nice person
So
having a hard day and doing nice things and meeting new people, and I was like, wow, I like this more. like,
is it
like
because
I like.
it's something that you can more like latch onto or see a more personal connection to?
I maybe I don't know if I'd say I was kind of in the same way of finding that stuff as personal. There was definitely sort of an escapey kind of thing to it, a sort of
I mean, if you look at
kind
something
of
like Bleach, it's kind like you can. It's very escapism. Something like
yeah,
Bleach,
yeah.
where if you look at something of a slice of life, Fruits Basket, it kind of exists in the world we kind of exist in a
I don't
sense.
know, but you have like that fun like Zodiac twist to it, and
Yeah.
I like. I think I'm always a fan. I think it's one of the reasons why I like something like Bleach, where it's like I like the idea of a fantastical reality, like a reality with a kind of fun layer on top of it. Like I think, it's, especially kind of for me, whenever I think about like things artistically, like I'm very obsessed with the idea of like parallel universes and things like that. But to me, I think that comes from a want of like a reality that has something fantastical to it. I like the twist because there's a kind of, not that I like believe that there's other things going on, but it's nice to kind of have this imagination of like the world is normal, and then in the background, this cool guy with a giant sword is fighting, like ghosts. And it's like, oh, it's so cool. He's going to save Rukia, and then like you get into that, and yeah, like it's very weird because like I never. And I don't really think about this too much. It's very interesting. I haven't really like put this together, but it really is very odd that like yeah, whenever I watched live action movies, I was so visually interested in them. And whenever I'd watched animes, I don't think I cared as much. I think I got more into the stories. I could say I wonder if part of that's because of subtitles, because but I'm watching subtitles on both, so that doesn't really work there. Um, I don't know. I don't know if maybe part of it's like kind of the achievement, or like maybe just the difference that like the shows I was watching at the time captured me more visually in live action, and the ones I was watching in anime wise, but like not. I mean, like I did visually enjoy them, but I don't think I ever really like when I watched like Hero, and especially when I watched it as a kid. Like I see like there's like a wonderful scene where they're basically in tribute to a sort of someone who just died. They're on this lake and they're kind of running across the lake. And it's very beautiful. And at one point they play tennis with a water droplet and swords, and it's kind of great. It's a great little calm moment. I remember just like looking at it and being like, wow, like the way this fades in, and just so kind of hypnotized by it, kind of thing. And even as a kid, like, and slight spoilers for Hero, by the way. Like that didn't in Hero. The entire premise of the film is that whole like thing they're talking about there didn't happen. It's someone's interpretation of a story, and like that's not the true story. But as a kid, all of that subtlety of like people telling stories and misinterpreting things completely went over my head. But this lake scene was super beautiful and hypnotic, and I was kind of lost in it. And I never really found that with an anime. I think there's an anime I really ever found myself particularly visually lost in. I think maybe until the first time I saw the second Ghost in the Shell movie. I think that one, I remember some scenes in that being like, wow, like, yeah, this is amazing, like visually. Just the way everything kind of layers together, like. So I think maybe the second Ghost in the Shell movie is the first time I've really visually looked at anime and went like, wow.
So,
But yeah,
as an artist, would you say you're more of a narrative guy or a visual guy or a combination of both, based on what you've said?
a combination of both. I think at least how I try and think of things. Like if I do have narratives, they tend to be semi loose. I think I like sometimes things being maybe more open to interpretation. I think I'm not always obsessed with the narrative reasons for doing something. I think there is a place to kind of have holes in things. So I like a neat visual. I'm a fan of the more kind of properly visual stuff. But I think that the visual stuff should always, at least to the person making it, still be telling a story, even if it's just to them. Like even if it's a story that no one else can understand. I think if I'm gonna like put in like a nice visual in something, I kind of want to feel like it's kind of part of it as a whole, really, of like a story that's being told.
I remember watching a few of the pieces you did for university when you posted them on a YouTube channel, and one of the vibes I got from them is they all kind of seemed very haunting in their overall tone.
Yeah, I think that's as much of a product of where I was at the time. I think that kind of stuff sort of seeped in, sort of accidentally, really. Like, I say that when I was working on Sea Brides, Resurrection of Sea Brides, like that one was like sort of kind of commissioned by an artist, Story Sinclair, who kind of specifically was like, your last film was kind of haunting and weird, like. So that one like was more because I was kind of told to, I was like, be haunting. I was like, yes, I will. I can do that. Seep everything in blue. It'll be fine. That's how you do it. Make everything blue. But yeah, I think for me, I mean, like with those films, like I didn't really have narrative in mind. I had tone, and like. Especially when like I was working on like Digital Businesses, the first one, like that was us kind of sitting down with like trying to write a script, very frustrated about the whole thing, and then in my mind I was just like fucking thinking out loud, and I was just writing it down like fuck it. You see a thing, it fades away. You go across again, it fades away. You fucking do this, you see it just kind of repeats back, and then. You just kind of keep going over and over again. And I was just kind of running my mouth a little bit of like where like my head was at the time, really. And kind of like, I just had a breakup. I was kind of pissed off about it. And like.
So would you say that the title Digital Distance probably had something, definitely was inspired by that particular breakup? Because
yeah, 100%. Yeah. No, it was 100% like about it. Like it just happened and I kind of wasn't in the best place at the time, and so like, and yeah, like I don't know, like I just couldn't think of decent dialogue to write, and I was just very annoyed by like almost feeling like I needed to, because like anytime I've ever tried to make a movie with any dialogue in it, it's always been a bit crap, like, and I still want to tell stories, but like. To me, I do sometimes wonder like how much detail I really need in that, and so it just became a thing of like, okay, like what is the story of like where I am in that moment? Sort of, like I just get broken up with, like where am I now? And like, okay, what do I feel like? I just feel like I'm kind of running over again. I got, Coke cans filling up my apartment because I'm just too lazy to get rid of them, and then. It really was a case of just take all that and just put it in the movie. And so, like... So I guess going back to, like, maybe the whole visual, like, story thing. Like 100%, like, I focus on visuals in terms of... In comparison, like, to writing. Like, if especially with, like, all the uni movies. Like, there's literally no dialogue in any of them. I didn't ever write a single line of dialogue for them, but... But they tell stories to me. They tell stories to me, even if it doesn't tell it to anyone else.
Yeah, and I think that's an important thing to go over is visuals can say so much more than just having a script about not just the story you're trying to convey, but who the person is as an artist. And that goes into my next question. What would you say that your art says about you as a person?
I think it has I don't know. I'd be interested to see what... I think it's more interesting to know what other people think it says about me, I think. Because to me, I think everything I make is very... Whether inadvertent or not, I think the way I've kind of worked... 'Cause I haven't worked on any projects that have kind of gone on for months and months, apart from, like, a VR one I did. Like... And that was, not narrative, really. So, like, for me, I think, especially when I read something like that, it's more... It tends to most likely be made quite quickly, and, the idea and the real, like, instrument of it happened about a month, maybe before, we properly started filming it. and then even then, like, a month later, it's kind of edited and done. So in that kind of 2 month period. So I think to me, they're all just sort of inadvertently, sort of, whether accidental or not, I think just because of the way they're kind of made quite loosely, they are going to inevitably be sort of accidental reflections of where I was at any given time. I think that kind of stays with anything I do, really. Well, like, I don't like the idea of sort of reflecting something else in a way, even when, like, I have, like, a character kind of thing, like, to play. I think the character will always sort of be a certain side or a certain sort of set of thoughts or whatever.
So,
it's all very stream of consciousness. I think.
I know video games are also something you're really into. So
yeah.
you recently rebooted your Hell Plus YouTube channel. So
yeah.
Those new videos. I know you did a video on Life is Strange, and how does that connect to your style of artwork? Why is that so important to you to incorporate that into your art?
Like video games or just Life is Strange?
Just video games in general.
Because I'm always playing them. Because they're kind of always there, really. So, like, if it's a reflection of kind of where I am at the time, I think it would be very disingenuous for me to, like, not include video games as a main part, because it is so much of my time. It is so much of what I do that I think, yeah, I think a big part of it is that, I kind of want everything I make to kind of reflect. And what I do these days is I play a lot of video games, and I kind of stay in those worlds and I enjoy them. So at least for the first ones of the reboot, like, it ended up being all about video games, because it was like, well, that's where I am now, kind of thing. And that's where I'm kind of reflecting now. So yeah. And yeah, they just spur thoughts in me. I tend to be sort of not reactive, spontaneous with ideas. I have ideas that have a habit of kind of just, like, they're there now. That happens, and they tend to be not fully formed, but relatively. There's one time when it is fully formed, which is when I listen to music. I am somewhat synesthetic with music. I find there are certain songs where I know exactly what the music video looks like. I know, like, a whole thing. I can just, like, I can't listen to these songs when I'm, like, walking, because I genuinely, my whole vision is taken up by it. Like, my entire brain completely loses itself in, like, that. So I definitely seem to have, like, maybe, like, a mild synesthesia for these things.
So music,
but like,
music has definitely is definitely something that, as an artist, you definitely hold close.
Yeah, massively. I always try and edit to music, and I mean, there's a time for silence. I don't think everything needs music, but, like, nearly everything I ever edit to tends to sort of, I like having something in the background. I like filling up that silence a little bit with something that seems tonally right. And I like editing to it. A lot of, especially in the reboot, like, as a 2 episodes so far, but, like, I mean, even the teaser for the reboot's done to music, and everything's timed to that. The trailer for the channel was very specifically timed. Like it's like I had a specific song in mind. I knew exactly what I wanted, like, when I wanted the beat to end, and, like, so everything was timed to that. And it's the same with, like, a lot of the scenes. I think, especially if you go back and watch the Hell Plus reboots, like, so far, like episodes 1 and 2, there are a lot of moments where, if you really just listen to the background, so much of the cadence of how I'm speaking, and so much of when I stop speaking, when I change something, it's almost all done to the music. And it's because that's kind of how I see it. Like it's sort of part of that a little bit. like whenever I tend to have an idea of what video I want to do, and I'm kind of going through songs, thinking about what's doing it, that synesthesia kind of kicks in and mixes the two, and it's like, okay, this is what I want. I think if you want the best example of that so far, probably the opening to episode 2, the No Man's Sky episode, like me turning to camera saying I flew, and then wild light just like kicks in and stuff like that. I knew. I'll tell you right now, I knew I was going to do that about 8 months before I made that video. Before the reboot even started, I knew that scene. I knew exactly how it was going to end. I knew exactly what that was going to be. And that was just synesthesia. Every time I listened to that song, I was like, that's where I stay. Okay, that's go. Turn camera there. And that's when you kick to the footage. And so it was just a lot of just compiling things together to try and figure it out, really.
Those videos are going to be... I'm going to actually post some of the videos that you've done into the discussion post so that people can check them out as well.
Thank you very much. The evidence for the jury. We find him guilty.
One thing I will say is the Life is Strange video you did felt super personal because you discussed the topic of sexuality, and I know that's kind of a heavy subject for a lot of people to often talk about.
It was part of it was because it was rebooting. I kind of wanted to make a bit of a statement and open on like I think I worry that we're slowly becoming like just not as maybe as a society, but like I worry that there are lots of people out there who are slowly shying away from vulnerability, especially on YouTube. I think that like something that I found, a lot of it comes from like watching YouTube and feeling frustrated by the lack of like weird art students living in this kind of space but not applying their trade in the same way. And like something you see so much is like you see a lot of YouTubers now make their content, and they'll make their content, and then they might have a bit of a burnout, they might have a bit of like a sort of mental health trouble, and what they'll do is they'll suddenly do a video that's like an update video that kind of pivots the conversation and allows them to talk about their mental health. Yeah. And they'll have a video like that, and then you'll go to the next video, and it's back, and it's normal, and it's the thing they do. And to me, every time I sort of see that, it's like, but if that struggle's a part of you, why is it not a part of your content? Why can it not discuss that? Like, why can we not really kind of get personal in it? And there are a few YouTubers that I like that kind of, I think, do that a little bit. Like, I think Writing on Games is a really good example. I love Writing on Games. I think he's fine with being vulnerable, and things like that. But I just remember just thinking to myself, like not, I don't want to be sort of the same character that I used to be, because Hell Plus used to kind of be a very kind of, you know, very cynical character that was kind of on top of my own cynicism, you know, sort of a way to reflect it. And it's like, no, I'm a different person now, I'm in a different place. And it's like, how can I get that across as immediately as possible, while also like saying, I want us to sort of exist where we can have these conversations on these videos, and it doesn't feel like there's whatever style I'm doing, but there's no bullshit between us. Like, I want it to be like, okay, you and like, I'm going to tell you how I feel, and this is my conversation with you. And I don't want it to be abrupt. I just want you to kind of, I want people to kind of be able to feel an understanding. And I think, to me, the first step with that was to not lie to people. And for me to like not say, I'm going to be honest, I think a large part of my life is sexual frustration right now. I think that'd be a lie. To me, that would be lying to you. To like, you know, like I imagine the whole thing of like, I'm meeting you for the first time. Like, I'm meeting all these people for the first time, and it's like, but like, I don't have to have a conversation with them. I don't have to be as abrupt as I want. It's like, but it's like someone comes in, like, they need to know you. And it's like, okay, how do I know you? It's like, I'll just tell you how I am right now, kind of thing. And to me, at the time, I was in the third lockdown. I was cold. I was just annoyed. And I was thinking about Life is Strange 2, and it just like, and the thing that Life is Strange 2 really kind of enamored me with was, yeah, like there was a sex scene. I just thought it was really kind of beautifully done, and it was like, okay, why do I think that? It's like, well, because I think it reminds me of my own experiences. It's like, okay, but what are your experiences? Well, I think there's a sort of melancholy to them. It's like, okay, then that's your video. It's a melancholy video about that, and then how you edit it is kind of just however it comes together. And so it's just watching stuff, remembering stuff, and kind of just letting it sort of happen. Kind of in a situation where like I can't really write scripts in the same way, so videos have to come together a lot more organically than they would otherwise. And so it was kind of an experiment of that. And to me, if you're going to make something completely organic and completely scriptless, I think to not be willing to be completely open and personal and honest, and also like just because I think that I've got very sick of seeing a lot of kind of in like video game stuff. I'm on Twitter, and anytime I see video game discussion on Twitter, on the Explore tab, it's always very quite toxic and masculine, and very, very toxic masculinity and very kind of anti-SJW and all that sort of stuff, and it frustrates me. And it's like, how do I get rid of those people without like just directly saying fuck off? Like, how do I get rid of those people without? Because originally there was going to be a scene. In my head, I had an idea of doing a scene where halfway through a scene, I just get up. Like, I'm just lying down and I just get up and walk to camera and just talk to camera. Being like, I wouldn't normally do this, but like, if you're anti-LGBT, any of that, if you're, homophobic, transphobic, go away. Like, if you're sexist, go away. But it's just like, no, it interrupts the flow of the video, and like, it sets an awkward precedent for me to almost be able to break the scene and lose the flow. And I quite like the idea of like, if I'm gonna break the scene, I'm kind of gonna do it in a bit of a different way. So instead, I changed it, and instead the scene was of me getting dressed in the morning and just kind of talking over that, and then basically I just put on a shirt, closed the door, and then the second that door closed is when I just cut off the voiceover. I did the voiceover first, did the scene, didn't know how long the voiceover was, closed the door, and I was like, the voiceover was like 3 minutes long, and the scene was only about a minute long, and it's like, when it cuts out, and that's it. It's done. Because the idea is like, that's our space to have a conversation, and I'm opening it up just for a second to tell you a little bit about how I feel, and I'm closing it, and it's gone. And we're not going there again for a while. We're not going back to there. And if I am going to break the fourth wall, I'm going to do it in the style of a 90s PSA, sex education PSA, which I saw on an episode of Best of the Worst and always found funny, and always wanted to wonder if I could sneak it in as a joke. And then when I finally snuck it in my channel, it ended up being as a very serious thing rather than as a joke, which is very odd. Because if you actually watch the original PSA, it's terrible. It's truly awful.
I mean, most PSAs aren't very good.
Exactly.
Just putting that out there.
But also, like, I only had my phone. I filmed that on an older phone, and like it's like, okay, like I used the mic, this mic to do this, but I'm going to be downstairs when I do that scene. I'm going to be in a different location, and it's like, I've only got my phone. How do I slightly explain away the poorer microphone quality? And at least now in the other videos, I think like the difference is there, but it's not enough that I think people care too much at the moment, especially on the kind of slightly more, very zero budget sort of it. But at least for like that first one, it was like, okay, how do I make it not a jarring transition? And to me, the best solution to make it not a jarring transition was to make it as jarring as possible. Just as completely surprising and weird. And it's like VHS 90s. Like, the dialogue's going to be fuzzy and off, and it's all going to be kind of just, like, yeah. And to me, that was a really good way of, like... And especially with that first video. Like, to me, like, the second video for me was very much like the No Man's Sky video is this is where I want the channel to be. And this is the kind of like level of style and quality I want it to be at, like consistently. But the first one was like very much for me, like I want to introduce you to like this is the idea, and like it is kind of a pilot into feeling the waters. But it was also feeling the waters of like, will people let me get away with being this jarring, this sudden, this like fast and kind of going in certain ways? Like, let's have a calm scene and interrupt it with a really crude joke about Mass Effect, and then, you know, electro music for 1 second, and then just fade it back, and just be such a whiplash as to make people go like, what the fuck? Like, for a second. and like, you know, but I think there's also like part of the, like, because I kind of edit these things over several days, it does mean like how I feel on each day will change the scene that's being edited, which is why I can go kind of in different directions. But I want to see how much people would respond to that. And it seemed like at least the people who saw it seemed to respond weirdly positive to like, this is kind of unpredictable and weird, but it's also like all very kind of honest, and it's all kind of very... I think that's also the other reason why I have to be honest. Because if I'm going to be editing over several days, and if I'm editing and making the video as I go, and I'm going to be changing every day, because I might be happy this day, I might be sad this one, and I'm just going to edit when I can edit. So to me, a way to make sure that the transitions between those feelings are not 100% jarring, if I'm always honest, if I'm completely honest, completely open, and completely vulnerable, the person will still be the same. And so if the person's the same, I think that kind of keeps the consistency. Even if, like, suddenly we go to a weird joke, even if suddenly it transitions into something sadder or happier, it's like, no, the person is there and they're still being honest with you. And I think that's like a through line.
So your emotions are definitely reflected within your work.
Yeah, 100%. Like, it's almost... I'm trying to say like it's almost purely emotional, like emotionally created, but like it sounds so pretentious. Like it's purely emotion, but no, it's not wrong. It's not wrong. That's not a wrong assessment.
This is for an art appreciation class. You can be as pretentious as you want.
Welcome to art. I don't know, like yeah, like that's how like it's incredibly emotionally driven. I mean, a big part of it is because of my ME. I have ME, and I get these headaches and all these sort of things. And writing and reading and doing things for a long time, they all cause me a lot of difficulties. Yeah. And it meant that, especially how I used to edit, like I would do like really long haul edits, and I'd be in, you know, on the PC editing for like hours on end to do something, and kind of redo a scene and go back and back and back, kind of refine it and write scripts for things, and you know, and that didn't work. That methodology completely is broken now, because like if I stay in the booth too long, it hurts. And
yeah, even
so
like even when I'm like reading like text for like class or whatever on the computer, like I definitely prefer having an actual physical book, because my eyes start getting tired and I start getting headaches too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So yeah, I'm getting on top of them, you know. It's like double. It's so.
So,
but like,
go ahead.
But yeah, no, my ME just put me in a position where it's like I can't edit the way I do. Like I can't edit like in the same normal way. So it's like, okay, if I'm going to edit or if I'm going to film, it kind of has to be spur of the moment, and it has to be while the headache's not too bad, and I have to be able to stop when the headache is. And trying to keep a really consistent vision and write scripts and things like that, to me, was harder than the idea of, if I just suddenly feel okay to do it, and I can do it for like an hour, and I make a little bit of the scene, and I just fuck off, and I come back, and then I keep doing that. As like if I turn that into the style, like, where does that go? And that's what the Hell Plus reboot was. It was a mix of both a necessity, because I was like, I can't make videos like this anymore. Like, I'm not in a place physically or healthily to do so. Like, I have to make these things kind of spur of the moment and kind of like scene by scene-y. But also on top of that, like just a kind of like a way to sort of like, if I have this, but also like if I have this, but I also have like, my sort of weird postmodern arts education. Like, why have I not reflected that in my work in the same way? I used to make postmodern art stuff, and it's like I just working in galleries and things like that. It's just like, why am I not like using that on my YouTube channel? Why is that so separate from my life? And it was like actually weirdly being in a position where it's like, Rob, you can't write scripts, it hurts you. You can't stay in the editing booth too long, it hurts you. You don't know when you're going to feel fine, and you don't know when you're going to be able to film anything, and you only have your phone and you don't have a crew. And it's just like, okay, let's just dig into the weird like postmodern art stuff I do, and like, what if that's the style now? And what if like that kind of just sun creativity is the style now? And so that was where I was kind of
So looking
with that.
having taken this class and doing a lot of research on different artists and things like that, one thing you will notice is that each of them have had a period of life during their art career. So would you say that this is just another period of your life for your art career?
What do you mean? I mean, a bit of
Because when you initially did the Helpless channel, your videos came off
Yeah.
as very edgy and
yeah,
kind of things like that. So would you say that this is
like a separate kind of
a separate period of your art career?
yeah. It'd be like, it's why I rebooted. It's also why like I was very eager to call it a reboot. Like it was like, because it was just, especially if I was like trying to be honest with people. It's like, look, I'm not that same person anymore, and it's like by completely rebooting it, to me it was like leave if you have to. Like, I want to keep this channel, I like using this channel, and I like the name, but like, this is not that anymore. Like, they're years apart and they're different. They're just so different, and to me it was more important to kind of really just put a line in the sand and be like, like, if you want those old videos, there you go. There's a playlist for you. And I don't agree with all of them, but there's your playlist. You can watch through them. But as far as like we are concerned, this is not that, and that's the conversation kind of doing that. So yeah, like it was very intentionally for me to separate it out as a different period artistically, anyway.
What would you? You've mentioned certain movies and certain titles that specifically stuck out to you, but there are certain artists attached to those pieces that really influenced how you are as an artist today?
I'm trying to think. It's sometimes hard to determine which are the artists that I like against which are the ones that like very specifically kind of influenced me, I think. Because, I love old wuxia movies, but I haven't made a wuxia movie, and I wouldn't say I've necessarily used all of the things that I like or like from them in my work, kind of thing. I mean, like, I love the director Takashi Ishii. I think he's great. I think he does a lot with his low budgets sometimes. I think like something like a film like The Black Angel is clearly made quite on the cheap, but like it still looks great to me. And I think there's a sort of a semi, even if it was not like kind of directly appeared in my work yet, I think there's definitely an inspiration of like that kind of gung-ho attitude to filmmaking. I don't watch Angry Video Game Nerd, but I think AVGN is probably one of the sole biggest like influences on New Hell Plus, because the original like thing was like I'm like. The original thing I said to someone was like, okay, explain to me what your channel, like what you want to make. And I'm like, what if AVGN was a postmodern art student who does not give a fuck about who will use like narrative elements and stuff, but have no storyline. There is no storyline. There's no overarching going jokes, and any jokes that are in there are purely by accident of weird postmodern bullshit.
No,
like, what if...
and it's funny that you bring that up, considering that you obviously studied film when you went to university, and that's exactly what James Wolfe, the Angry Video Game Nerd, also studied.
Yeah. Like, I mean, definitely, I think especially these days, I try and be a nice guy. I really don't especially like I try and be very understanding, even of like things I don't like. Like if a game comes out that I don't like, I'm always like, like people worked on this slow, and I can't like slag them off. But I'll definitely say that I think some of my work, even like the modern ones, some of it definitely can come of like frustration with other artists. I think there's occasionally like almost a desire of like oh man, like I wish you were doing this, but like kind of wanting certain content to exist in the world that kind of doesn't. And I think like there are a few. There's sometimes where it's like I don't remember if there are any specific ones, but like like a couple where it was just like the content was just the same, even though there was still like there's like in between. It's like mental health is a thing. It's like no, it's just like no, content's not reflective of it, and it's just like but we're just talking about video games. It's like can we not? And I think definitely a massive for us. Like one of my biggest inspirations is definitely very inadvertently in the dumbest way. Not an artist, but the reaction to anyone who ever tries to say anything about video games in a way that is remotely like political or personal. Where it's like, if a woman goes like, hey, this video game really appealed to me, and then there's all those absolute awful people who will just, jump on those people and just be like, you're the worst, and I'm gonna kill Anita Sarkeesian. It's like, Jesus, like, go away. Like, I don't want you here. And to me, it's the best way I, like, almost found to kind of say, I don't want those people around me, and I don't want to see that every day, is to be the opposite. So it's like, let's just make a channel that is completely willing to be artistic and personal and if it comes down to it, political, like kind of thing.
I'm someone who's not very political. I'm kind of in the middle when it comes to it. Most of my things is like, okay, look, live your life the way you choose to live your life, or the way you just live your life naturally, so long as you're not hurting anyone. So it's like, I have friends in the LGBT, and all of them amazing, super welcoming people. So
I mean, I'm very much of the as long as you're only not hurting anyone, like absolutely. That's kind of where I am with these things. But it's and it's like I haven't like there hasn't been, but it's more like trying to sort of, instead of if I'm going to kind of make a statement of like what I think the world should personally be like, I don't think for me the best way to make that statement is to tell the people who there's a bunch of people being sort of dicks and that like around. I don't want to sort of like go around these days kind of call them out in the same way on like a YouTube video. It's just like, if you think this, you're this. To me, like my way of sort of seeing it was like, there's already going to be a lot of people who are kind of already calling these people out on their things. There's always going to be a lot of people doing that. So for me, I'd rather kind of be the change already. I think. Like I like instead of being a thing that tells a bunch of people who are homophobes that they cannot be homophobic, instead I'm just going to make a place that is distinctly not homophobic, to the like just so sickeningly nice, so disgustingly sweet and lovely and personal and honest, but not in a sort of contentious fuck you way that like it weeds out the dicks. Because like if you're just being nice and if you're just being honest, like if they want to camouflage themselves amongst it, they have to be nice. and to me, like it makes it easier. And having to have like a relatively nice community, so it's like, and also like I felt like I kind of had to do that, like, because confronting them directly, even because especially we're in situations right now where like a lot of industries are having like the Me Too movements and stuff coming out and things like that, and it's super important that we talk about it. And I do think it is important that there are people out there who basically like tell the people who are like well, actually, like those the people who've been really dicks about it. Like, I think it's important that we have people that, like, do tell them to, like, shut up. It's like, no, like, let women be heard. Like, let, like, these stories come out. Like, let's, like, look at reforming certain things. Like, let's, try and solve these problems that we have that are, like, awful and have caused, like, really bad damage and really bad sort of mental and physical scars to so many people. And then, like, anytime I see, like, someone being like, actually, these allegations about, like, Ubisoft or whatever are lies, it's like, no, we know they're not at this point. No, it's just like...
The thing is, once actual proof has been presented...
Exactly.
Then...
And it's just like...
You can't really make the argument that, okay, this didn't actually happen, because we see proof it happened.
Yeah, but the thing is that, like, but even when we have proof of something, like, there are so many people out there who will just refuse to feel like it means something or to accept it, and that kind of thing. And to me, like, it's like there are so many people out there who are doing great work in basically, like, really presenting the facts and, like, just saying to, like, these people, like, look, like, if, like, you being like that is just toxic and it's all these problems and that kind of thing. But to me, it's like there's already enough people saying that, and it's like... And it's not the fault of the content creators. When a content creator I like will stop the way they're doing things to say, look, if you're going to be like that, fuck off, kind of thing. And, like, this is why you are wrong about this, and this is why you need to, like, listen to people and, like, those kind of things. Like, even if I agree with the content creator, even if I'm 100% in agreement with them, it's still weirdly... I think, like, just the brain is instincted that someone is talking to you in a negative way. So even when I agree with them, and, like, even when I was like, no, I'm not part of the problem in the same way, kind of thing, it's still really easy to have my brain fall into the trap of just, like, are they shouting at me? Is this about me? Like, am I being told off? Oh, God. And I started to, like, worry and like, and to me, it was like, okay, well, if those people already exist, like... how do I present what the alternative is? And to me, like, it was like, okay, the alternative is like, look, like, as far as I know, I don't harass women and I don't do all these awful things. So it's like, what if I just present a world of, like, that? And whether it's like, I don't think it's one of those things where it's like my video has really, like, addressed that stuff in the same way, but I think it's kind of like, if I just present me and, like, are willing to be vulnerable and, like, yeah, like, I got cuddlies everywhere and I hug them and I'm, can be effeminate sometimes and I can do all these things. It's like, if I just present that as honestly as possible, like, instead of it being me feeling like I'm shouting at everyone when I'm actually only shouting at a certain group of people. And, like, even the people who agree will be like, yeah, I agree, but oh God, it's a miserable watch, Because that's what it is, and again, like, no disrespect to the content creators who do that stuff. I think it's important to do that stuff. You have to address bullshit. And, like, on my streams, I do that all the time. Like, I think my streams are very guilty of, like, okay, we're going to stop and talk about this because you need to shut the fuck up, kind of thing. Like, so that's what the streams are for. But for the actual, like, YouTube channel itself, it just felt really kind of wrong to sort of stop everything, to make everyone feel a bit guilty. And to me, it was like, instead of, like, showing the dystopia, let's, like, present... like, not a utopia, but let's, like, present a better, like, and I know, like, I don't mean that in a way of, like, I am better, like, I am Jesus,
like, I don't mean it like a better alternative to the situation.
Yeah, and that's not me, like, running around going, like, I am a better alternative to everything. It's just that I'm the belief that, like, being nice, being honest, and willing to be personal, I think, willing to, like, have a... I mean, to me, like, at least on a personal level, I think that the New Hell Plus is sort of semi-intimate, especially because I'm the only person who ever appears in it. Like, it's just me, and it's the only thing in the house. And there are other people who, live in the house, but you never see them. And even, like, when, like, I do a sequence where I'm walking through a place, I intentionally try to avoid any scenes where you could see another person. kind of thing. Like, to me, it almost, like, Hell Plus to me almost needs to feel like if there was some secret crazy backstory that led to me being the last person in the world, that would still fit, you know. like you know, like, what if it's just this one guy kind of wandering around on his own having thoughts? And like, I do think that like the best way we do things is together, but like, to me it was like, if I present this idea of like the person watching and me, and I'm going to open up to you, and I'm going to be bordering on intimate, and we're going to have a very kind of weirdly close one-sided relationship right now. To me, that was a way of saying like, of like maybe pushing certain people away a little bit, of like, look, if you're not willing to like be a little bit, you know, like, just, yeah, like you're not willing to be intimate, if you're not willing to just let us be quiet for a moment, or let us kind of enjoy a bit of silence, or kind of like let us be together for a little moment, even if it's just me talking to you. To me, that's kind of the atmosphere I wanted to make in those videos, was something a little bit more intimate, and definitely some motivation of that was to sort of maybe present an alternative of like just how loud everything is, and how sort of crazy everything is. It's like, no, like, if I'm going to believe in like the rights that I want to believe in, instead of like just shouting to you, I believe in these rights and that's important, instead I'm going to be me, and you're going to know that I believe in these things. You're going to know that I really do strongly, you know, fight for these things personally. Like, I will always, you know, fucking be on the side of anti-racism and anti-sexism, all that sort of stuff. And if that's who I am, then if I just make videos that are completely intimate and honest and personal, then that kind of side of things will just exist in that. And if you're not comfortable with that, you know, I'm not going to tell you to fuck off, but like, I'm going to be intimate to a point where it will hopefully feel semi-uncomfortable and maybe challenge that a little bit.
One thing I will say is I think the type of content you're producing is also important, because, you know, some people who might have like values that are not so nice, seeing you discuss these things, but not in an attacking manner, will in a way serve like, as educational for them, and hopefully make them see the error of their ways and that they can be better people.
I mean, I hope that. And it's not like ever the initial motivation going into it, but it is like, I would like that to be the case. I think that's like the utopic ideal of it, you know, where it's like, it would be nice if that was what was ended up being the case with these things. But especially, I mean, like, I think that, like, because there are, you know, I think the attitude I used to have is very different to the attitude I have now, and I think like in a way, if I have an audience that are maybe, if some of those old audience still also hold on to those values I used to have, it's kind of a way to sort of undo, you know, some bad habits, or sort of transition them out of it, I hope. But it's also just like, you know, I never make it from the approach of talking to anyone else. I always just make it from the approach of talking to me. And you know, like me, there's like old stuff I regret and things like that. And so I think that kind of naturally feels like I'm having a conversation. Like, I think when like in that first episode, the bit with like the cupboard that opens and stuff, I think a lot of people think I'm probably talking to them. It's just like, I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to me. But it sounds like I'm talking to you. And that's because you are now, like, because the second it gets on YouTube, I'm not talking to me anymore. I'm talking to me to the point it's uploaded. And the second it's uploaded, I'm not talking to me anymore. I'm talking to you. And you're going to fill the space of me. And we're going to find out what happens there. And what that relationship is like. And so, like... And, you know, like, I don't know if it will, like, undo any bad habits or anything like that. But, like, to me, it's like, you know, the third episode is an infinite loop of trying to figure out how to make the damn thing of what it is, kind of thing. That's the one thing about doing these spur of the moment things, though. It does mean that like you can get in loops of not really knowing what you're doing, and that can be tricky and to get through that. But
look out for episode 3, everyone.
But like episode, you can get a scoop, a scoop in episode 3. Oh, what's it gonna be? Not Ace Combat, even though I said it would be. Although Ace Combat will feature in it for 1 second, almost as a joke at that point. But like episode 1, like episode 1 is like, this is about like sex, but it's not about sex in like the same way of like how we depict sex in the same way. It's like, no, like it's more about like, can we depict sex honestly? Yeah. And what's the things that, and then episode 2 was, just about having an existential crisis and like what that feels like. And it's like, I don't think that's going to undo any racism or sexism in the world, but I think it will at least like, I hope it helps people, especially episode 2. I hope episode 2 helps someone a little bit, like, and because even in it, I'm just like, look, I can't really help you, like I can't like give you the answers and that sort of thing, but like
you can at least help people find the answers.
Yeah, I can set you on the way, like I can. I can't give you the answers to these things because I don't always know them myself. But like I can at least put you on a path, which I think like tends to be semi helpful.
Yep.
Yeah.
The last question about this is going back to your days in uni and what you learned. What would you say that you've learned that have really helped you with the creative process?
It's good to reflect on what you're it's good, and it can be artistically super interesting and worth like exploring, making art that just reflects you. But if when you start doing it you happen to be in a bad place, don't mistake your creativity specifically being some sort of painful thing. I think it's easy to like have some really good artistic successes when you're having a downer. I think that sometimes like some of the best things you make, you might be feeling super down as you make it, and you'll be a bit miserable as you make it, and you put that into your work and it suddenly feels really deep and personal. It's like, oh shit. And it's easy, especially early on, I think, to mistake your creativity as being fueled by pain and sadness. I think it's really easy to do that. It's just like, so then you almost feel like you have to be miserable to art, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's, I think that the main thing I learned was like your misery doesn't have to be your only sort of artistic fuel, really. I think that like it might take a while to sometimes find it. It's sometimes a bit harder to find inspiration in it, but because I think sadness can be very immediately inspiring in a lot of ways. I think when you're sad, when you're happy, it's nice to have everyone feel happy, but you tend to be too happy to remember that it's good for everyone else to feel happy too. But when you're sad, it's really easy to want everyone to understand you and everyone to feel like you do, so that you can feel almost like with understanding, maybe we can get through it, kind of thing. And I think that like that's very easy to turn into to fuel for art. I think like it's very easy to have all your best ideas when you're sad, but I think it's wrong to, and it's an easy trap to fall into, to make that your only inspiration. And so like for me it was like, like finding real kind of artistic avenues out of just peace or just a nice moment or a bit of kindness, and then you kind of layer that with the pain and with the sadness, and what you get is a fully fledged person. Because a person isn't just sad or happy, they're a mix. And I think be unafraid to try and explore creativity on all your moods. And also just to like, at least for me, it was like, I made YouTube content and I made uni content, and I made YouTube content while I was in uni. but my YouTube content wasn't really informed by my uni in the same way, by the stuff I was learning. And I think it's kind of, if you've learned something, don't be afraid to kind of use it in ways, even if almost at first it feels like you're forcing it in a little bit. Like, it's still a way to kind of experiment, like, and to kind of use that stuff and just be like, yeah, like, I'm gonna be creative for the sake of being creative, and if it's just for me. And yeah, the final thing I'd say as well is that, like, I know it's cliche to say, and it's still easy to fall into the trap even when, like, you start doing the second bit, this bit, but, like, when I started making Hell Plus, one of the reasons I kept making it is because everyone thought it was really funny. Everyone liked it. And
I want to say.
yeah, but no, like it's the dopamine rush though. You release the video, everyone thinks it's great, so you do the same thing. You kind of want to please people. It's really easy to want to please people. And when I did like the Hell Plus reboot, like, I just didn't. In all honesty, like the reboot a few months ago, I just kind of decided to pretend that the audience didn't exist. I kind of didn't make it for them at all. Like, I made it for me and no one else. And I finally got to have a very different sense where it's like, because I was making it for me and I wasn't making it for anyone else. You know, whenever I released a video on YouTube, it was like, for me, how good it was determined by how many views it got and how many likes it got and how many comments were nice. And then I released the reboot, and after that first episode, I mean, don't get me wrong, it was amazing that it was as universally positive for the people who saw it as it was. That was, like, crazy. But that, for me, the feeling of this was a good, successful video, it was the first time I really had it where that feeling was before I even released it. Where it's like, I was rendering it, and I was like, I like this. This is good. Like, this is a good video. And then I could have put it out there, everyone could have disliked it and hated it, and I would still have been like, no, that was a good video. Like, it doesn't mean I don't get a dopamine rush or don't listen to criticism if it comes up, kind of thing. Like, I want to kind of have that, but I don't want to fall into the trap of where it used to be, where it's like, I am making this for other people. Like, I am making it for me, and I'm in a position where I can do that. I have the time to do that. I know, like, especially, you know, if you've been commissioned, you can't always do that in the same way. But at the very least, like, if you have your own thing, and you have your own time and your own ability to artistically express, I think sometimes the best thing to do is to just realize that you might not be alone in your audience. Like I like, you know, I'm not the only human being who likes Hero. I'm not the only human being who likes a Takashi Ishii flick. I'm not the only human being who likes these things. They are out there. There's other people out there that like that stuff. So if you make a video that you like, you've made a video that other people have liked.
Yeah.
Just by proxy. And it's like, yeah, everyone won't like it. Like, but that stops mattering the second that you start liking it. Because you start being able to make the content you want to see. And once you do that, like, it becomes its own reward. Obviously, real life sometimes gets in the way with money and all that lot, but especially at least while you're in, like, uni and stuff, where, like, you're allowed to be creative, yeah. Sort of, and live in a world where that's the thing. I think that kind of sense of, like, I made this because I wanted to see it, and I was happy I made this, and I felt like this was worth making. I think that's a feeling I only very recently kind of got, like, because I think, you know, I like a lot of the work I made at uni and stuff. I do, but I think I don't. But like, some of them, like, I like because they performed well, or because they scored well, or because they did good and people liked them. And I don't think I necessarily like watching them all the time. But then like the new ones, like I like do occasionally sort of like skim through them for almost like trying to like figure out, hey, like, what was working here? It's like, I enjoy this, like, I'm kind of happy and proud of it. And yeah, so
I mean, I kind of have to say, like, I have the same mindset when it comes to my stuff. The stuff I do
Yeah.
at this point is for me, first and foremost.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And
Like if it makes you laugh, then
and
yeah.
not everyone's gonna like it, but because I enjoy it, like you said, by proxy, there's gonna be a bunch of other people who are gonna like it too. Maybe not a lot of people, but just be grateful that some people take a positive thing from it, or they felt something from it.
Yeah.
So,
But it's like it's a little bit like, I know this is more talking about sort of kind of racial discrimination in the 80s and things like the 60s and stuff. But there's a great film called Dolomite Is My Name. That's about Rudy Ray Moore. Eddie Murphy plays Rudy Ray Moore. And in that, there's a bit where they're trying to sell the guy's movie. And they're just like the only people who are going to watch this are like those five like people who fight like those 5 street corners, over there. Like you've made this for like yourself and those like 3 streets, and he just turns around and goes, yeah, but every city has those 3 streets in it.
it's
Like every city has those. Every city has those 3 streets, and it's just like, oh my god, that's so good. Like
that's really good.
And like I found that really inspiring. If you want a good inspiring movie, Dolomite Is My Name is a great little one. And Rudy Ray Moore and stuff.
So
it's good.
I want to say thank you for doing this interview with me. I really appreciate it.
No, it's the problem.
It was great having this conversation with you, honey.
No, it's nice. I got to analyze my own work pretentiously, which I haven't ever really done before. I haven't really looked. It's like is the Help New Hell Plus the change you want to see in the world? I guess it is. Yeah. It's like, oh, shit. Like,
so I'm happy that I was able to ask you these questions that really allowed you to think about this kind of things.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
So
it's nice.
I just ending it. Is there anything you want to shout out? Any particular artists out there on the internet that you think deserve a little bit more attention?
Ooh, there's definitely like a few. I mean, writing on games, I think is just a great one. I've already mentioned it before, but like, yeah, writing on games is just an excellent thing. God, I mean, I'm into a lot of like slightly fun game movies like Mandalore and Reykjavik and Civi. I love Civi, although I wouldn't say they're the same thing. I think folding ideas, actually. Okay, writing on games, folding ideas. I only got him into him recently, so but oh my god, folding ideas is amazing. Like that guy is really something. And then if you just want to have fun and laugh your head off, Sushi Ramen, a Japanese YouTuber who will make you lose your shit forever. Sushi Ramen is the funniest thing. I feel like I've watched
some of his stuff with you before.
Yeah, I like him a lot. Completely unrelated to my art, completely, but that stuff's funny.
So,
yeah.
Everyone, I hope you enjoyed watching this interview. Again, it was a extreme honor to be able to have this time and interview with Robert Adams.
Very kind of you. It was an honor. Yeah. I knight thee.
So, thank you. I want to thank everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you found some of this informative. And
finishing with this bottle the whole video.
I feel like you're trying to do an advertisement here.
It was accidental. I only noticed it about halfway through, like when we were like a good sort of half hour in. I was just like, I am fidgeting with this bottle constantly.
We are being sponsored. This is not a sponsor.
We are not being sponsored. However, I will say that Lipton peach iced tea is the nicest fucking drink. So, I don't shoot the messenger. It's just true.
Yeah. So, thank you, everyone. Hope everyone has a good rest of your day. And Sean Valentine signing out.
Oh,